In European folklore, Frau Perchta is a winter goddess who roams the countryside during the 12 days of Christmas, specifically targeting the lazy and disobedient on the 12th night. She rewards hardworking children with silver coins found in their shoes, and she punishes the lazy in a gruesome manner. She is obsessed with domestic order. If she enters a home and finds that it's unclean, she must punish those responsible. Using a long knife she conceals beneath her rags, Perchta silently slits open the bellies of the offending victims while they sleep. She then rips out their internal organs, specifically the stomach and intestines, and replaces them with straw, rocks, and pebbles before sewing the wound shut, so the victim wakes up heavy and dead. This mutilation also happens to those who fail to eat the traditional meal of fish and gruel on her feast day, so you better eat fish and gruel, guys. She is an enforcer of hard work during the darkest days of winter. In the rugged, snowbound areas of the Alpine regions, the deep winter is not just weather or a season, but an attack on your spirit, much like the Chicago winters. The period between Christmas Eve and the Feast of the Epiphany, or between December 24th and January 6th, is known as the Rauhnacht, or the Zwölften. It's a liminal space where the normal laws of time, space, and the veil between the sphere of the living and the realm of the dead becomes dangerously permeable. Ruling over this wild time is the terrifying matriarch known as Frau Perchta. Perchta is an entity that embodies the contradictions of the Alpine winter itself. The blinding brilliance of sunlight on snow and the crushing darkness of long nights, the fertility of the coming spring and the starvation of the present famine, the warmth of the fire and the lethal cold of the storm. To the good, she is the bright one, a white-robed goddess who bestows silver coins and agricultural blessings and abundance. However, to the bad ones, to the indolent, the rule breakers, she manifests as a nightmare, a tattered, iron-nosed crone with a deformed goose foot who invades the home to enforce the rules with violence. Her punishment, the slitting of the victim's belly open and stuffing the cavity with straw and stones, is one of the most gruesome images in European folklore. Frau Perchta is a manifestation of the winter goddess that is present in Northern European folklore. The theory is that as Christianity displaced paganism, the great goddesses weren't erased but demoted into folkloric figures. Perchta became the wanderer of the Alpine valleys. The iron nose and goose foot are demonized distortions of divine attributes, the eagle's beak, or the swan form. A lot of the description of Perchta might sound familiar. She's similar to the Slavic figure of Baba Yaga. They both have iron noses. Both figures are associated with sweeping and domestic tools used as weapons, such as brooms, and both are mother figures who can be both helpful and harmful depending on who they're dealing with. As I discussed earlier, Frau Perchta has a nose that's described as being made of iron, hooked or beak-like and incredibly long. This connects Perchta to the owl witches of the Romans, who flew by night to suck the blood of infants. This feature dehumanizes her and makes her more like a bird of prey in the predatory night. Perchta is also described as having one large deformed or webbed foot, similar to that of a goose or a swan. Perchta is often dressed in tattered rags, symbolizing her connection to the poor, the outcasts, and the wild nature of the winter landscape. Hidden beneath these rags is her primary tool, a long, sharp knife used for giving her punishment. She often leans on a cane, presenting as a crippled crone, a disguise that tests the charity of those she meets. The core of her legend is her role as the enforcer of domestic rules. And I know you're wondering, why would a goddess threaten to disembowel children, especially around Christmas time? In the medieval and early modern Alps, the production of linen from flax was critical to survival. It was labor-intensive work that dominated the lives of women. The processing of flax, breaking, heckling, and spinning had to be completed according to a strict seasonal timeline. The period of Christmas to Epiphany was a sacred holiday. It was believed that the turning of the year required to stop rotary motions. No wheels could turn, neither wagon wheels nor spinning wheels. Therefore, all flax from the previous harvest had to be spun into yarn before Christmas. To leave the flax unspun during the holy days was to invite bad crops and the wrath of the goddess. Perchta was a supernatural labor enforcer. She protected the holiday rest by punishing those who worked during the sacred time. But she also punished the laziness that led to the work piling up to the sacred time. If Perchta enters a home on the 12th night and finds the flax unspun or that the house was dirty, she would use her long knife to slit open the belly of the children. She would remove the stomach and intestines and she would fill the empty abdominal cavity with straw, stones, garbage, and sometimes the unspun flax itself. She'd then sew the victim back up, sometimes using a heavy iron as thread. Perchta also punished disorder. If the spinning room was messy, she would trample the flax or set it on fire. The obsession with cleanliness was important in these times. It was supposed to be a fortress against the chaotic spirits of the Epiphany. A messy house helped out the demons. Perchta's violence was to purify the household of the lazy person. Perchta is a queen who bridges the world between the living and the dead. During the 12 nights, the wind howls through the Alpine valleys. The noise is interpreted as a wild procession of spirits, ghosts, and dogs racing across the night sky. Odin is the traditional leader of the wild hunt. In the Alpine Alps, Perchta often leads the hunt. This makes her associated with the storm and the fertility that follows the storm. The hunt was dangerous to witness. It could lift a person up and drop them miles away or kill them instantly. However, the passage of the hunt was also necessary to wake up the earth for spring. Perchta harnessed this destructive energy for agricultural renewal. The Alpine peasantry could avoid Frau Perchta's terror by properly eating her sacred meal. On the eve of the Epiphany, a specific ritual meal is mandatory. Failure to eat this meal or eating too much of it would trigger the belly slitting punishment. The meal consists of herring, Perchta's milk, which is a rich gruel or porridge made of milk, flour, and sometimes oats. Pancakes or dumplings were also eaten. An important part of the ritual was the offering. A portion of the Perchtenmilch and the fish had to be left outside, specifically on the roof or under the eaves or on the fence post for Perchta. The legend is that one must leave a spoon in the bowl or else the spirits cannot eat. If the bowl was found empty the next morning, it was a sign that the goddess had accepted the offer, foretelling a year of health and healthy crops. If the food was untouched, it was a dire omen of death and misfortune. This integrates the wild into the domestic. By feeding the spirits, the household acknowledged its debt to the unseen world. This threat to slit the belly was a threat to retrieve the food that had been selfishly withheld. Now, there is a tradition of the Perchten run, a masquerade tradition that takes place during the 12 days of Christmas. These are different from the Krampus runs of early December, though sometimes the lines get blurred. There are two types of participants in the Perchten run. The beautiful Perchten, and these figures represent the benevolent, light-bringing aspect of the goddess. They wear a traditional Alpine dress, but are distinguished by elaborate, towering headdresses called kappen. They're often decorated with mirrors and silver jewelry, flowers, and ribbons. They move with dignity and grace, going from house to house to wish the inhabitants good luck and blessings for the new year. Some of the beautiful Perchten perform intricate, mystical dances involving high leaps to encourage the corn to grow high. Then there are the ugly Perchten. These are the monstrous figures that resemble the Krampus, representing the dark and wild and protective aspect of the goddess. They wear terrifying wooden masks carved with multiple horns, tusks, and demonic visages. They're clad in heavy sheepskin or goat furs and carry loud cowbells and horsetail whips. Their ugliness is functional. They're not demons, they're demon scarers. Their purpose is to be scarier than the winter spirits. By running, jumping, and ringing their bells and cracking their whips, they drive the cold, the darkness, and the evil spirits out of the valley to wake the spring. If a spectator is hit by the horsetail whip of an ugly Perchten, it's a fertility blessing. It's said to bring luck and health. Now, in the Raues Valley of Salzburg, there is a unique variation. The beaked Perchten. These figures don't wear horns or furs. They wear tall avian masks with beaks that can be up to 2 feet long. They dress in rags and carry brooms, oversized knitting needles, and scissors. On the eve of the Epiphany, the Perchta enter homes, making only a ga-ga-ga sound. They use their long beaks to sniff into corners, under beds, and behind cupboards to check for dirt and dust. If they find a clean house, they bow out and leave. If they find dirt, they may sweep the dust out the door, and possibly with the messy inhabitants as well. They are hygiene inspectors for the goddess, enacting her obsession with purity. The Christian church has attempted to demonize Frau Perchta. In the 15th century, the church tolerance for folk customs began to wane. The cult of Perchta has been specifically condemned, and it was forbidden to leave food offerings, calling it idolatry. During the era of the witch trials, Perchta was rebranded. She no longer had a procession of souls, but of demons, and her wild hunt was a procession of the damned. The belly slitting legend was amplified by the church to paint her as a bloodthirsty monster, a female Satan to be feared rather than revered. To survive, Perchta had to hide. Her attributes were transferred to Christian figures. For example, her festival, the Festival of the Epiphany, was overtaken by the three kings. In many Perchten processions, figures of the kings now march alongside the monsters. In some areas, the figure of Santa Lucia, or Saint Lucia, absorbed Perchta's light aspects and her role in checking the spinning. By the 19th century, Perchta had been successfully contained within the nursery tale. She was reduced to a boogeyman used to frighten children into obedience, stripping her of her cosmic power. However, in the 21st century, Frau Perchta has emerged from the shadows, fueled by renewed interest in regional heritage, the pagan revival, and people who love dark Christmas folklore. Like us. The explosion of the Krampus has also taken Perchta in its wake. Perchta is often mislabeled as female Krampus, or is just simply grouped with Krampus. And this ignores that she has a distinct theological role and has a specific connection to the Epiphany. Her runs, Perchta runs, are now major tourist attractions. And the masks have been influenced by Hollywood horror aesthetics, such as aliens or zombies, rather than the traditional carving styles. A 2017 British horror film called Mother Krampus claims to be based on the legend of Frau Perchta. The film features a witch named Perchta who kills children. However, it confuses her with the Krampus, ignoring the belly slitting logic, and makes her a generic slasher, turning her into a jump scare villain. But Frau Perchta is so much more than just a horror movie monster. She is a figure, a goddess of necessity. In the pre-industrial Alpine world, survival was not guaranteed, and it required the discipline of the harvest, the labor, and the rigid adherence to community law. Perchta was the divine projection of this reality, a shadow mother who loved her people enough to force them to survive, even if it meant cutting the weakness out of them with an iron knife. Her legend is of fear. The belly of straw is a statement of failure. To be stuffed with straw is to be a hollow thing, a person who consumed resources but produced none. Today, Frau Perchta lives on. She remains the iron-nosed guardian of the threshold, watching the snowy peaks to ensure that the wheels turn, the work is done, the house is clean, and the balance between light and the dark is kept. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like, share, and hype up this video. Follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it, or send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support this channel, you could make a donation with the link to Buy Me a Coffee, so you could buy me a coffee, or you can become a member of this channel. For the $1.99 tier of membership, you can get exclusive content, including exclusive videos, as well as access to my videos before they go public. I appreciate you considering this. You can also support me by continuing to like, share, comment on, and hype my videos. And I do appreciate that you watch my videos. And please stay spooky.